Okay, so we're going to risk one more video today before I have to go out and do daily things and chores and etc. So, I didn't end up getting anything more progress on this gun done, but what I did realize is I badly need an in-game editor. So that's what we're going to work on. We're going to start on the in-game editor in order to try to do something with these where I don't have to restart the client every single time. Now, it's going to be really basic. The plan is you'll just give a model ID and it'll load up the properties and you can edit the properties in real time. Maybe. I haven't figured out quite how I want to do this. Yeah, let's just dive in here and let's start with some command line stuff. Um, this is not exactly what I want with an editor, but it will let us manipulate the property data without me spending like an hour just trying to make a GUI that looks acceptable enough to use. And we need to go down to the engine here. So go down to the core, MC, core commands. Now these will be JSON commands. So we're going to go ahead and put a package in here, and this is going to be visuals. I think I spelled that right. Let's pop Google out to see if I spelled visuals right, which is pretty bad if I don't know if I've spelled an easy word like that. Yeah, I spelled it right. Okay. I'd say I use Visual Studios often, so I shouldn't forget how to spell this word. So we're going to go command JSON model is what we're going to make a command for. We have a recipe one already. We use this to generate recipes into JSON data. That way I don't have to work as hard to do things. Although I did make this and I never ended up actually using it for the recipe stuff. I kind of got it working and then I'm like, you know what, we're going to hit the recipes up another time because I needed to generate like 50 something recipes for one item and I didn't want to go through all 50 and test them, especially since I don't have any AI installed. There was a reason I did open this up. I kind of forgot. I need to copy this stuff out of here. That way I don't have to type it in manually. There we go, extend subcommand, and this is going to be called model. And then we rename the constructor there. And this is going to be really simplistic. What we're going to do is we're just going to use this to manipulate model data. Let's go ahead and pop the client open, or the client package open, and take a look at the JSON. The model itself doesn't have anything on here. There's literally nothing in the model data. What we actually are going to do is actually, we should call this render for that reason. We're actually messing with the renders. Because we may come back down the road and decide, you know what, let's actually allow people to modify the model data. Because as long as you have models in the asset folder, you can actively load them into the game. If they're not in there, however, then you got to go through a really complex process to load stuff in. You can load stuff outside of the main Minecraft game. I've done it in the past. I know it does work. I haven't done it recently because, well, I'm trying to avoid as much as possible because as soon as I open up the possibility for loading in a few things, then there's going to be an expectation to load in everything. And I want you guys to, if you're building guns and stuff for Minecraft using the Armory mod, to load in everything via the jar file as a mod. So you're going to build an actual mod up, you'll put all your content in there, you'll do the same thing everybody else will do to make actual mods. This actually makes it loadable, it lets people override it with resource packs, it fixes tons of things that I would break if I let you load from external. The only time I'll probably do an allow from external is things for like AI scripts and stuff like that, things that are data driven only. So we're only going to do JSON data from the external, no assets. But let's go open up the render. Now, render data, if I can find it, actually, so we get, this is the base render data. Oh no, yeah, we're messing with state systems. So what we want to do is we need a load command. So let's go ahead and grab this here because I need to copy this top part. So first things first is we're going to need to tell it what render data we're manipulating. So we're going to use something called load. So it'll be render load, and that'll load up your render. And of course, it's going to demand that you actually have like certain things set up. So So this will be sender.add chat message. You know what? This needs to be right here because you can only do this stuff from this here. Technically, you could do this server side, but it wouldn't work. So this will be. I don't even know if we can manipulate this data from a command. This is we're gonna have to test this. Anyways, we need to add a chat message, so we'll go player, add chat message, new chat component text, need to provide render data ID. Oh, my dog is snoring. I'm like, I hear this noise over here thinking my dog is whining at me for attention, and no, she's just snoring while she's sleeping. I need to make sure I take her for more walks so she loses a little bit of weight and doesn't snore anymore. Let's see, we need an ID here. Yeah, I'm looking at the render thing over here. I'm just picking pieces out of here, that way I don't have to type as much because my fingers don't really feel like typing. It's one of the downsides of having nerve damage and arthritis in my fingers is that I don't actually like to type often, even though I'm a programmer, which is counterintuitive by an extreme amount. Let's go ahead and close the gun data there. Close that again. So we got our render data. So we need to figure out what render we are. So we're also going to have to do something like this where, yeah, so this will be public render data loaded data. Now I know these commands will not load server side, so we probably should do some kind of system to guarantee these things don't load. And the easiest thing I can think of is going into client proxy here, and then going if, actually you want to do this a little later into the system. Go right here, if engine.running as dev, then you want to go, what is it, volts engine, no, it's command VE dot, can I not do that? Oh, there's an instance, that's the reason I can't call any commands. Instance dot add to debug new command JSON render. That way this is registered only client side. It still is going to be executed server side, but it's server side on a client. So that means it should still be able to interact with client code. But I can't remember if I've ever actually manipulated client data with a server style command. Because theoretically your server and your client are meant to be separated, but because you're running it on a client, which means it's running a server and a client in the same application, they should be able to communicate back and forth without much of a problem. But of course, as I said, I haven't done this as far as I can remember, which means there's a very high possibility I'm just going to flat out crash this when I run it. Anyways, got loaded data. So we want to get our ID, and then we're going to try to get the ID from the system. So we want to go loaded data equals client data handler instance dot get render data ID. Then we're going to go, okay, if loaded data does not equal null, because this will return null if it's missing. Yep, key equals null, key is empty, or it's going to return null if there's nothing there. Then we just want to go, if you can't find anything, just go, hey, couldn't find it. Couldn't or did not find render data with ID, and then you want to do a comma there, and then ID. And then we're not going to do any corrective behavior to check for what kind of ID or what if it's a allowed ID. As long as it's a string, you're fine. Yeah, as long as you're a string, you're good. And then we'll go, okay, loaded data here, and we'll go, okay, make sure we get some debug. Loaded render data for ID. Data contains, and we want to know what number state. So we want to go loaded data dot get state. Or is there not like a method for I didn't really design this code to be used this way. Okay, there's a render state by name. So just go render state by name dot size. Data contains so-and-so number render states. Now what we also might do is with these commands, add render states. Now note this will not save. So the only thing these commands will be used for is to debug in-game data, so that way we do not have to work hard to work on everything. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and go if render data or if loaded data doesn't equal null, and then our else statement is just going to be whatever we want to do. By the way, I'm just going to turn this to a true down here because I don't really care. There's only going to be one render code method. But we'll go ahead and do this. We'll put this down here. Render data must be loaded to use any other command. Use, what is it, slash? No, slash. What is this called? It's a debug render. I think it's VE debug render. And then render data ID. I think that's correct. And then of course we want to put some comma things or whatever the hell these are called around that, so that way you understand that this is the it in the statement. So use it to load, and then that's your thing. You're not reading it as VE. You're not seeing this as the rest of the statement, although most people get around that and figure out that that's not part of it, but it helps with readability. So our other commands we're going to want to do is we're going to want to then call state. So render. So actually, we're going to call this load data. So yeah, we load data. And we forgot this here. So debug render load data. Yeah, our help command is going to be like long as hell for this. And then we want to do load state down here. This needs to be equals ignore case actually. Equals ignore case. You always want to use equals ignore case because that allows people to like just be retarded with their typing. So yeah, equals ignore case. Then we load state. So we want to know what state we're loading to. So public render state state. By the way, when we do this, we also need to make sure we set the state to null. So we reset our data set. So we go load state. Actually, we want to make sure we want to do this whole thing over again. Put this here. And then we want to go when we go else, we want to rinse and repeat our same system here. So I'm going to go, so what do I do? I just call it state. Call this load state. Loaded state. Probably should have done a refactor on that way. I would have changed all the data. So we want to do loaded state, and this is going to be render data, or loaded data dot get state ID, and then put this here, put that there. This actually needs to be iRender state. The reason it needs to be iRender state is you can technically make your own render data states. This does mean that this command is only going to support a select few render states by default. I will not be able to really modify everything, and we'll get around that eventually. We'll figure out some ways to make sure that even custom render states can be edited. Okay, so loaded state, etc. Loaded state is equal to null. Loaded render state for ID, and then you just want to basically put everything back in here. And we don't really care for this here because there should only be one rendered. There should only be one data set per state. Did not find render state for ID. Need to provide render data ID. Or render state ID. And then we come back down here, and this is going to be loaded state. So we're just going to repeat the thing, so you're going to have to load two different command things. What we could do up here is we could call both commands by going, okay, load data, and then your first word is your render data, and your second word is in your state. We'll hit this up later. Right now, it's not too bad to call two commands. So we go doesn't equal null, and then we'll go down here. You go like, hey, you got to provide a rendered state to use. Need to provide render state, or need to provide render state, or need to load. Yeah, we'll do this one. Render data must be. Yeah, so use debug command load state render state ID. Okay, so now we have our render state data going here. Now the next thing we want to do is manipulate data. So these right here, between these two brackets here, these are our render states. So our render states have an ID, a type, a model, a texture, parts. Right now we want to be able to manipulate offset and rotation and scale. So that's the three things we want to do. So our next command is going to be this. So we're going to have set rotation. And then our next one is going to be set offset. We're going to need a few different commands. So right now we're going to do set, offset, and everything. You have to write all three numbers. Then there's going to be something called rotate. So you'll go like rotate, and then you'll pass in like, okay, I want to rotate y-axis by 30 degrees. And then you can do plus, minus, or just flat number. So there's going to be a lot of little tweaking we're going to do because I want to be able to use these commands to rapid fire update things in game. And then we're going to need, at the very end, by the way, we're also going to need a output state. Actually, we're just going to call it output because you can only output one state at a time. This is going to dump over data. This will be the very first thing we're going to actually work on for testing. And we should be almost ready to go on this part. So what we want to do if loaded state is an instance of model state. Actually, we're going to do this up here. So we're going to go if loaded state is instance of model state. And what we want to do is we're going to make two separate ones here. We're going to go else, and then we want to put this, or we want to do no statement actually. If is not an instance, actually want to go if loaded state does not equal null, is what we're going to do here. Only model state data is supported for command modification. So right now we're only going to support model states. That will save us a lot of effort. What that also means, we can come up here and we can go model state, and then we can create a temporary variable here. So we're going to go I render state, and then we want to go, okay, loaded state equals state, and then we're going to have to cast it. But that'll give us our thing to work with. And then we want to output our stuff here. So we want to output everything we just did. And we want to output it, we're just going to output it flat, so we're not going to do anything with this. So we're going to go, okay, offset. And there's something, there's a command, there's a system I can use real quick for this that would save me a lot of effort, but I'm just not going to use it. So we're just going to do it this way. So we got our loaded state, and I want to get the offset. I'm just going to dump it as is because I just don't feel like putting a huge amount of effort into this system. After all, I'll be the only person really using it, and I only have a short period of time before I have to get going here. So we got rotation, and then we want to do scale. Scale is, believe it or not, a multiple number system. You can scale in all three directions. So it's really good if you say you make a handgun, but you want to make that handgun look like a long-barreled handgun, you could just scale in one direction and all of a sudden your gun will stretch. It won't stretch proportionately very well, so your grip will get bigger, so your gun will just overall look stretched. So if you want to really stretch a model, please just edit in your editor, or separate your gun into different parts so that way you're only stretching a couple parts at a time. This does support multiple layered system, sort of. It hasn't been fully tested, but it does work. Anyways, this will dump our data, and make sure this is an else statement. And what we would do is we want to set rotation everything. So how this works is we need 3 variables. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need greater than 3. And then need a try catch here. Number format exception. Yeah, put E here. And then we fit an exception going, we just want to do this. Go error could not parse numbers. We are going to parse these as doubles. So it's actually a bit of a tricky problem. Is I'm not sure I can actually set the model data. Let me take a look at this. Okay, I can. So this is not something that would be difficult to do. We do want to store previous, so I'm going to go pause equals, we're working on the rotation here, so we're going to go get rotation. We do want to output the previous value. The reason why we want to do this is, oh wait, we're using Euler angle for this. This would be Euler angle rotation. We want to output the previous for this because it will, actually we don't need to do it this way, we could just grab this method here. And we'll go previous rotation. That way, if you make a mistake and make a typo, you don't lose your previous values. You can go ahead and just reset based off that. It'll tell you exactly what your previous values are. And we want to tell it what the new values are. So we want to go new value, but we want to do this down here. So go rotation is now set to this value. And then we want to read in our values. I had to mute my mic there for a second. Sneezed in my mic, and that would have been a little awkward. So we want to read our values in, and this is going to, I had to actually just check it. It's yaw, pitch, and roll. Okay, so that'll work. We don't want to make a new data. Actually, we'll just make a new data value. It's not like we're wasting too much. That's a recipe there. I lost my placement of where I was at. So this will be loaded state dot rotation equals new Euler angle, and then we're going to just go double dot parse double, and this would be 1. I don't know why it put oh yeah, wait, I need to do this args. Yeah, I got it right the first time. I was like, why is it this way? And it's like, oh, I'm not paying attention. It's why it's that way. Here we go. So we're just going to do that real quick, and that'll work. So what we do is we get the old value, we set the new value, then we print it out. So it'll produce 2 lines on the command, and we're good. And we just rinse and repeat this for this one down here. The only difference is between this one is that we're actually setting the offset now. So this will be a pause. And of course we need to change our output message. Looks like the people I thought were going to be on earlier today actually just finally got on and are like, hey, hello. Yeah, we'll probably be playing Ark Survival with them here later today, although I have to go run errands, so I don't know if I'm actually going to get a chance to actually play with them today, which will kind of suck a little bit because I am enjoying that game greatly. And I actually was probably going to start on mods today for that game. What I might do is I might actually stream that, and we didn't do a thing for scale yet. Now scale is going to be a little different because we have 2 different versions. We forgot to also this very quick. Okay, so when it comes to scale, I want to be able to differentiate between different types. Okay, greater than or equal to 1. Oh wait, no, wait, that's correct. Yeah, I was looking at these like, oh, that doesn't look right. But our first command is 0, so that means you want to do 1. So this means this needs to be else if args.length is greater than 1. So that means you need to have 2 length. This one needs to be 4. So that'll work. The reason why we're doing a 2 length down here is I actually want to go ahead and just cheat it and be able to just type in one number here to do the whole thing. And actually, I think I could just do this real quick, and that should work. So do this dot scale, and be scale, and then apparently I'm being encouraged to leave quicker here, so we'll have to make this short. Okay, get scale, and then we'll do the get scale here. And this should be it. So we'll go ahead and hit run debug, and hopefully this works so I can go ahead and end the video here and head out and stuff. I also need to find, there we go. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that while I wait for this to load. This does load a bit quicker. So I did actually make a project thing just for what I'm doing. Yeah. So what I was trying to do over here on the other screen real quick is I was trying to see if that haircut place I go to will do pre-ordering or pre thing, and they actually do, but I click and find location. It's like, oh, here's 20 locations in your area, and I'm like, oh wow, crap, I don't remember the address of the place I'm going. Yeah, I usually get my haircut at a an old school barber place, but I moved towns and now I have to go to the conventional places that do all the fancy stuff. So confusion because they like to have you pre-register and sign up for your when you're going to get your haircut and be told like what exactly you're doing before you even step in the door. Me, I just want a haircut. I don't want any extra steps. Okay, so VE debug JSON render. So we'll see if the command works or doesn't. Okay. Command JSON render. We added it to debug, so there is no JSON here. Or did? Hold on, let me pop that back up. Add to debug. Okay. So yeah, we just need to do this. So the command does exist. We're going to do load data. It says need to provide data ID. Now I need to go pop the ID out of this file here. So this is the ID. So we'll go ahead and do this. Okay, it contains 4 render states, so it is working. We now want to load our state. So the state we want to work on first, just to test this that the system actually does do what it's supposed to do. We want to mess with our first person state. So this would be ID is item.firstperson, which I think is all I need to type in. Could not find with item first person. Now here's where the trick comes in because I'm not exactly sure how we're stuff loaded. There's model ID, text ID. I mean, we did load the correct gun. We have multiple states. Let me take a look at how I typed the command in. Most likely I just made a typo somewhere. So load data, load state, load state, get state by ID. So let's go ahead and pop a thing here. So it just flat out didn't find one is what it did. So we'll go here. And we'll dig down into this. So item.first. Now if we open up our state list, so we go this, render states, We do have an item up first, so whatever reason it can't find this, I don't understand. Yeah, why is it? Okay, it says no. We can very clearly have looked at that and we could tell that that was in existence. So if I pop model state back open, it's got a model loaded. Oh no, wait, there it is. Oh, yeah, typo. Yep, told you it was a typo. Hit play. We just gotta type the command in again. Remove that debug line, and then hit play again. Okay. Loaded model state item first person. So now we want to get our super command, and then we want to do set rotation 0, 0, 0. Gun just disappeared off my screen. Now our previous values were 155, 0, or no, negative 15, 5. Back on my screen again. So if we go ahead and do this, now we can sit here and adjust this. So I want to modify my pitch to be -5. That's a lot better pitch-wise. So this means our pitch probably needs to be something like that. That is aimed roughly in the middle. Now, of course, this is one of those tedious tasks because I need to sit here and mess with a little bit of everything. So this needs to probably be 0. Okay, that's not what modify. The dumb thing how rotation works is there's supposed to be a certain order you rotate it, and I think I'm doing the order wrong because as you rotate things, it rotates everything else around it. And you see I just moved that by 30 degrees and all of a sudden it's off my screen. This tells me that there is some clear problems with how the system is set up. And I may need to go back through and see about adjusting it, but if I adjust it, I got to make sure that the old stuff works. Right now it's really easy just to do this and just sit here and tweak it. Okay, that's my yaw rotation. I have a feeling this model's not centered. Gonna probably find that out here later. That this looks good. I need to up the scale, so let's go ahead and do scale. So set scale 4. That's about right. Now let's go here and I want to do 20 on this guy. No, let's do -20. What am I shooting from the ghetto here? Because my gun's now sideways up to the side. Whatever. I'll end this video here in a bit here, or in this video as soon as I type these values in. So as soon as we figure out what we want here, all we have to do is go into this file here, and we're first person, and we just need to input the data that we just created. And that way we don't lose anything. And we did figure out scale of 4 is pretty good, so hit file, save on here, and I'll see you guys later with more content.